Hi everyone, in this video I'll be showing you how to install a wooden floor that is going to be glued down. So this is a typical apartment and there are things to watch out for. For example, this floor has been leveled just a week ago, and as you see there's a color difference between this room in here and this floor here has been primed 2 times, and what the primer does is it locks in the moisture in the concrete. And the reason for doing that is that wooden floors and moisture are not best friends. So it keeps it from coming up and into the wood, and that protects the wood from bulking, bulging, or whatever that happens when you install a floor on a wet concrete. And then as we come to the kitchen, then you can see that the side panels are laying really low to the floor. Now, what I like to do before I start my jobs is that I pre-cut them so that the parquet can fit underneath. And what I do is I take a small piece, I just lay it beside it, and then you take a multi-cutter and then you just cut the panels. And the same goes for this wardrobe here. We have some door lists that are going all the way down. So you do basically the same thing, just put it underneath or beside. You cut them, you check that the level is good, it's not too low, and then you're good to go. Now, here's a few things that I've learned over the years when using a multi-cutter like you see me doing here. And what I used to do before is I would just leave the tool on its maximum or fastest setting, and I would just simply blast away through all of my cuts, never understanding why am I generating so much heat, why am I destroying my blade so fast, and why do I keep burning the wood. And even though I knew that I can turn down the power, I'm sure I must have thought that this equates to me just simply losing time on the job because I'm gonna use more time to make the cut. And a few years later I saw my colleague doing just that, turning down the power and cutting a kitchen cabinet panel. He used a little bit more time, but his cut was absolutely perfect, and I was shocked. And I tried it for myself, and then I saw that doing that, of course I used a little bit more time on my cuts, but they were a lot better. I didn't generate so much heat, I didn't generate smoke, and my blades lasted a lot longer. And I'm sure this would have never come to my mind if I hadn't seen another person do that. And as silly as this tip might be, make sure you regulate the power on the tool for the adequate job. Now when somebody starts installing a wooden floor, plank, or be it something otherwise, what you usually see is they would pick a wall and they would start with a full plank. Now, of course this works and you can do that, but one thing before that you can do is just measure the width of the room. If you start with a full plank, what are you gonna get on the other side? If it's gonna be a very small, narrow piece, let's say 3-4 centimeters, it's not gonna look that nice. So just taking a few minutes beforehand, before you install the first plank, just measure the width, just see what you have, so that you don't end up with a narrow piece that is going to look quite ugly. Now I'm going to show you how you calculate the width of the room. You can use a measuring tape, but here I have a fancy schmancy laser and I'm just going to use that. So just line it against the wall, press the button, and this is what you get. 4 meters and 19 millimeters. I got 4 meters and 20 millimeters before that, so it's pretty much the same. Our plank is 18 centimeters wide, and this is when I do the calculations. I have written everything here down. So this is your room. Sorry, it says 4 meters and 2 centimeters wide. And you have to keep in mind the gap from both sides, and let's say it's going to be 7 millimeters. Or 8, let's say 8, right? And then double that, you get 1.6 centimeters from both sides, and subtract that from the width of the room, you end up with 4 meters and 4 millimeters. Then divide that by 18, and then you will find out how many full planks you will have. So that's 22 full planks comma 2.4444, whatever. And then you subtract the 22 and then you get left with the last piece. So you multiply this 0.2444 by 18 and then you know that your last plank is going to be 4.4 centimeters wide. No, that's not going to look nice on either side. So what I'm thinking to do is actually cutting the first board by 7.2 centimeters. And if we would measure here, I decided to go for 7.2 centimeters because then it would be smack in the middle of the sliding door. I measured the center here and then I measured 7.2 centimeters from here and it's smack in the middle. So then you will have a connection of two boards right in the middle, and in my opinion it's going to be very pleasing to the eye. You'll have a separation of both rooms, and once the sliding door is closed you won't even see the line. So I think this is a very nice solution, and what you end up with is a narrower first plank and a wider last plank. So what that does is if you take away or let's say if you add 7.2 to the 4.4 centimeters to the last plank, then you get a plank of 11.6 centimeters. And the first plank, then you take 18, you take 7.2 centimeters away from 18, and then you end up with a plank that's 10.8 centimeters wide. So they're pretty much the same. They're going to be pretty much equal on both sides. It's going to look very nice. You'll have a nice line in the middle that's not going to be even seen when the door is closed, and it's going to look awesome. So this is how you do your calculations, and that's why it's important. You might just make the whole floor look much nicer before you install with a full plank. Here I have cut the very first board. Now if we slide out the door, see how it's going in the middle? And from outside you see a full plank, from inside you'll see the same thing. So it's a really nice separation of these two rooms, even though the floor is continuously going throughout both of them without any gap. I think this is really appealing to the eye, don't you think? I think so. Alright, let's get cracking. We have a lot more to do. Now, how do you measure the following boards? There's a couple of ways you can do it. If you use the same method as I showed you before, if you connect one more plank and then you put another one on top. And this is the piece that we use to cut all around the kitchen and the wardrobes, the doors and everything. And it's 18 centimeters wide. And this is the groove that is sticking out. It's about 6 millimeters wide. So one easy way to measure out the plank is you just put the one on top of the other that it's straight or flush, and then you just take this piece. Let's say if you want the expansion gap from that wall here to be roughly this distance, then that's it. What you do is you take your pencil and then you just mark it around the board. Move it over. Mark again. I have to do this by one hand. So this is it. This is what you're gonna cut out, and then this board is gonna go here. I'll show you when it's done. This board fits here perfectly, and there's a gap. And the reason for that is that we have to cut the board from this side also. There's a ventilation unit in this wardrobe, and underneath it has a metal skirting or whatever it is. We can't cut that. It's not gonna be nice to put any moldings here in front. It might even be blocking the door. So we're just gonna cut around, and I'm not gonna use a jigsaw this time because I want this line to be perfectly straight. So I'll use a circular saw, and we'll just leave a few millimeters expansion gap, and then it can, the owners can fill the gap with silicone or whatever we want. The gap will be very minimal. You won't even see it once the door is closed, and it's gonna look nice. So how do you measure the distance that has to be cut from underneath the wardrobe? Well, basically you'll just connect a few more planks, make yourself a straight line, make it as straight as you can, and then you have something to measure from. And basically what you do then is you take your measuring meter or whatever you have, and you just measure the distance and you minus a few millimeters. And then you just basically mark off from the board where you have to cut it. Concerning the plank where it has to go underneath the wardrobe, one way you can do that, just look underneath, and this is our clearance. So as long as you're underneath this side panel, let's say if you measure it from here, you're good. The plank is going to be underneath, it won't be seen, there won't be any gap, and this is where I put my pencil mark. So I'll cut it from here and I'll measure out whatever the distance is from here, and this is how you cut your board. A straight cut is by using a circular saw. Just align it with your pencil mark and cut a nice straight line, and this here we can cut with the jigsaw since we want to insert it anyway. I've cut this part, it's underneath the wardrobe, and this is the sort of gap you get in relation to my finger. It's very small. The floor is going to be glued down, it's not going to be expanding and contracting so much, so it's not a big problem that it's smaller here. This is going to look very nice, and once the door is closed, you don't say anything. Perfect. So now you can see my first line is pre-cut. I always pre-cut my first line before gluing anything down, because then I don't have to mess with the glue. We ended up with a small piece here, and it's going underneath the... I forgot what it's called. Anyways, it's gonna look good. Let's see the door. No gap. It's gonna be perfect. So what I can do now is, let's say, measure out 4 lines. So 4 by 18, that should be 72. Make a line the whole way across, remove my first line, spread the glue, install the first line, and then just continue installing the other 4, and then strap everything together with the belts that I have there. Maybe let it sit for about 10-15 minutes, and then just continue working. So this is what you do. You pre-cut your first line, always, or not, up to you, do whatever you want.